onefootflipper.
Okay, I'm just going to have to rip the Band-Aid off here. I thought you were attractive. I thought we could make it work, but I already knew that some of my friends had had bad experiences with you because you've been around. You know, live selling, you really seemed like you'd be great. I tried to love you. I really tried, but it's over. It's not me. It's you. You want someone who's either extremely flashy and popular and will just get many friends to your parties to make you even more popular. Although, I've also seen in the past, you'll settle for someone who's just willing to put in the time and give everything they have and expect nothing in return. But you know what? Neither one of those describe me. And that's why, live selling, I'm dumping you. It's over. Now, I've tried live selling multiple times in the past, and every single time I come to the conclusion that my eBay time just made more money per hour. But recently, with all my bills continuing to go up as everybody else's is, and the very real threat of not having any health insurance next year, I decided to try to add it to my eBay business. Not instead, just extra. So, in November, I ran 6 shows on Dibdit. The merchandise was a combination of eBay overstock and things that I specifically bought for live sales on Dibdit. And I even brought some of the good stuff. Items that I could have put on eBay for 20 bucks or more. And I carefully tracked the time spent, and I tracked every penny of the money coming in and out of the Dibdit site itself, as well as the cost of the items that I specifically bought to sell on Dibdit. Guess what? After all the fees, the shipping, and the cost of goods. Now note, I only use cost of goods for the items I bought for Dibdit that actually sold. I counted 0 the stuff that I pulled from eBay to sell there. I made an average of $1.09 per item. $100.57 in total over 6 shows. And this took me a total of 28 hours in between sourcing time, show prep, show time, and packing time, making me $3.59 per hour. And I didn't even count packing supplies into this calculation. I didn't count the stuff that I bought for live sales that I didn't sell at all. If I counted that in, my hourly wage would be negative. This is just not worth it for me. It's not even close. This is so ridiculously bad that, I mean, literally, I would make more money doing off-topic research videos, you know, the kind of I do sometimes that only get 500 views because most of my viewers don't care about them. I would make more money per hour making those. One thing I did learn, though, if you don't get Dibdit all to yourself and start directly as someone else ends your show, then your show's probably gonna tank. At least that was the experience I had both in November and my previous attempts at using the platform. If you start at the same time as someone else, you split the audience. Your show tanks. Because half the audience doesn't mean half the sales. Half the audience means half the sales at half the prices. Because you have far less people bidding against each other. Most of your items that sell, when you've got a tiny amount of people in the audience, are going to sell at that opening bid. If the person who started an hour before you runs for more than an hour, they don't stop selling, guess what? They keep the whole Dibdit audience. Your show tanks. If you're the first show of the day, your show tanks because there was nobody hanging out before you started. The day that finally put the nail in the coffin for me, I started off as the first show of the day. First time I'd ever done that. Only got 8 people in my show. Only one of them was buying. The others wouldn't even talk in chat. Since I actually preload all my items, I find it doesn't take any longer to do that. And it makes it much easier to ship later. I just finally ended up running only the items that the one buyer wanted, which they got all at opening bids. Then I scheduled a second show later on. There was an open hour slot in the early evening. However, the person from the previous hour never stopped running. I got all of 7 people in my show, and everything that sold for opening bid, And it turns out that several of my single item buyers lived in rural areas in far postal zones, and I ended up completely underwater on their sales just from the shipping. Oh, look, I received $9. Look, this person paid a total of $9.30 for their order. It cost me $10.50 to ship it to them, and Dibdit still took their fees. And I had actually increased both my shipping prices and my opening bid slightly to try to account for this. Still wasn't enough. When I went back and actually examined the data on the stuff from that week, I realized something else. How much the customer pays for shipping on Dibdit, I don't know if it's like that on Whatnot, in a progressive shipping situation is affected by the weight class of that first item that they buy. In my case, if a customer bought a small item followed by a large item, they will pay $3 less in shipping than if they had bought the large item first. And the only decent workaround I could think of for that would result in way overcharging customers who bought multiple large items. In any case, I'm done with live selling. I don't want the heartbreak of trying to start over on Whatnot, particularly since you've got to have a specialty there or be really famous. I'm neither. Not even close. And this isn't meant to be some sort of hit on Dibdit. The deals you can find there as a customer are incredible. The administration of the site is professional and responsive. But as a part-time occasional live seller, it was not worth my time. I would have been better off throwing all of that stuff directly in the garbage and searching the rest of the dumpster for things that I could sell on eBay. I would have made more money that way because I would have had 28 hours in which to do that. That's all I got for today. Thanks for staying to the end. Hope to see you again soon.
See, that's One Foot Flipper's nonsense video.